There is a word. And I know some of y'all trying to get to your ribs and roast and brisket and all of that. But there is a word. It can be found in Romans chapter 16. And I just want to read one verse number 13. Romans chapter 16, reading verse number 13. And I want to read from the NIV version of this text. Whatever version you have, you can follow along. But one verse, and it says, "Greet Rufus, chosen in the Lord, and his mother, who has been a mother to me too." For a few moments, I just want to talk about Paul's salutation to mothers. Paul's salutation to mothers. Mother's Day is a special day. Should have got a whole lot more amens right there. Mother's Day is a special day. It's a day where we pay tribute and honor to our mothers. Many of us are endeared to mothers. Mothers are special. They should be celebrated, they should be honored, and they should be recognized. In the Old Testament, Exodus chapter 20, verse 12, it says, we are to honor our mothers. And this command to honor our mothers is not a suggestion from God, but it is a command to honor all mothers. No mother is exempt from being honored. Her character or her effectiveness as a parent is not the issue, but God established this guideline for Israel because he says a respectable home was crucial to the nation's future success. And the same for us is true today, that God blesses our homes when we respect our mothers with words, attitudes, and actions. I think a lot of the situations and issues we're having in our homes is because the children are not respecting their mothers. And they get along with not respecting and honoring their mothers. I grew up in a household where I didn't have that option, Deacon Speaks. I didn't have an option of whether or not to honor or respect or recognize my mama or my big mama. If I wanted my teeth in my mouth, if I wanted to be able to lay on my back in the bed, you understand that there had to be some honor and respect. And this ain't on the paper, but I'm on my little tangent right here. God forbid those youth that speak back negatively to their mothers. I've told y'all before, I've heard it so many times, it's etched in my memory where my mama says, I brought you in, I'll take you out. To this day, I've learned to honor any mother because I've learned how to pay honor and respect to mothers. Let me get back to the text. Paul, in this last chapter, in this book of Romans, is saluting and listing people who have been instrumental in his ministry. He starts to list men and women who he is greeting with salutations as he's preparing to end this letter to the church and the Christians at Rome. But he gets down to verse number 13 and he breaks in and he says, I want to greet and salute Rufus, who was chosen by the Lord. And he doesn't just stop there. He says, and his mother, who was a mother to me also. Paul could not think of Rufus without turning his thoughts to Rufus's mother. And can I tell you, Paul's greeting to his mother and as a mother to me also does not mean that Rufus was Paul's natural or biological brother, but that Rufus's mother somewhere and in some way during Paul's ministry had cared for the apostle as if it was her own son. And can I tell you, there's a whole lot of mamas in here that have taken care of other children who are not their biological children, but have made an impact in somebody's life. Somebody who will testify, I've had some mothers, some like mothers, some other folk in my life that was not my biological mother, but they poured into me and I treated them like a mother as well. I believe that God has given mothers a unique capacity for showing gentleness and compassion. I believe that they have been made to influence the spiritual direction of children. And so on this day, we ought to be thankful for our mothers and those who have been like a mother unto us. The three little things I see in this text, and then we can be on our way. Mamas, you can go take a nap because everybody else gonna wait on your hand and foot. But the first thing that I see here is that public action does not always come with public acknowledgement. Public action does not always come with public acknowledgement. Much of what a mother does is unrecognized by others. It's natural because much of what a mother does is behind the scenes. Many of you don't know what mama did or what mama sacrificed in order for their children to have the best that they could have. But even when there's not recognition, mothers do what mothers do because that's just what mothers do. There's something God placed in mothers that allows them to have the capacity to nurture and care for their children, even when it doesn't come with any recognition or acknowledgement. This Mother's Day of acknowledgement is nice, but women do not become mothers just to get a gift on Mother's Day. But for a godly mother, the only recognition that matters comes from God, and everything that a mother does is recognized by God. Sometimes, mama, you won't ever get all of the flowers that you deserve or the gifts that you deserve on this side, but rest assured, God knows the sacrifices that you've made. God sees all and knows that a mother and what she does is important in the lives of your children. There's some mamas in here that will testify that God is in the blessing business, and even though folk don't publicly acknowledge and recognize what I've done, I know that God is still in the blessing business. In this text, Paul says Rufus, chosen by the Lord, and his mother. Now, he could have told us her name. He could have said Rufus's mother named so-and-so. But whatever his reasoning, he did not mention her name. But she had a special place because he did not let the moment pass without giving her salutations and greetings in the text. Paul didn't mention her by name, and that's all right, but at least she was mentioned. And as stated earlier, Paul is saluting people that made an impact in his ministry. Rufus was named, And Paul also saluted and gave recognition to his mother. There are many mamas who are sitting in here right now. And you've probably forgotten what your real name is. Because for so long you've been called mama. You've been called mom or mother or dear, or if you had a celebrity as a child, you was called so-and-so's mama. But some would call granny, some would call grandma. You kind of forgot what your real name is, because many have endeared your name to be that they have learned for you to be. And all Paul gives us is, and his mother. But can I tell you, behind that statement of and his mother is years of matriarchal comfort, years of provision, years of protecting, years of nurturing, years of counseling, years of loving, years of forgiving, years of understanding, years of cooking, years of cleaning, years of sewing, years of teaching, years of praying, years of driving us around. I could be here all day listing out what mamas have done, but the fact of the matter is, he didn't have to mention her name, but he knew and recognized her attributes. Mother's Day is a day to express our appreciation, but it can never make up for the years of sacrifice that mothers have made. There are many mothers who are unsung heroes, but the one thing I know is that the Lord blesses in private what man may not acknowledge in public. There's some mothers in the house that will testify, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, wouldn't I be where I am right now. There's some mamas in here that say, you don't know how many times I got down on my knees. You don't understand how many times I had to get down into my secret closet. You don't understand how many tears I've had to shed. You don't understand how many meals I've had to go hungry in order to make my children eat. But can I tell you what folk don't recognize in public, God will recognize you in private. But can I tell you, mothers, even when they don't get a public acknowledgement, they still maintain a private prayer life. I can hear, and I heard y'all singing in here the song that says, I still hear mama praying. Can I tell you, mothers are not worried about flowers and candy, but they're worried about that their children are walking with the Lord, that their children are protected by the Lord, that their children are blessed by the Lord. So I've told you, public action doesn't always come with public acknowledgement. But the second thing in this text I see is that there is a salute to biological mothers. A salute to biological mothers. The text says, greet Rufus, chosen in the Lord. Now right there, it lets us know that Rufus was a believer. And if Rufus was a believer, Paul salutes his mother in the same sentence and statement as he salutes Rufus. It said her son was chosen in the Lord, which means there must have been some introduction to Christ somewhere along his journey. Can I tell you, through the relationship of my mama and Jesus Christ, I was introduced to the Lord. And can I tell you, because she was a believer, now I am a believer because of the example that she placed in my life. And can I tell you, if we're honest with ourselves, many of us have come to faith in Christ because our mothers taught us that their faith in Christ was real and genuine by living out their faith in front of us. Sometimes, mama, you ain't got to say nothing, but your life is lived to set an example for your children on how to lean and trust in the Lord. I know how to survive in my struggle because I saw my mama trusting in the Lord. I learned how to stand fast in the faith because I saw my mama standing on the promises of God. I know how to shout in my storm because I saw my mama still praising when things were not the best. I've learned how to forgive others because I saw when folk hurt my mama that she forgave them. Is there anybody in the room that know that mama set the example? Many of us know that if it had not been for mama's example, that we might not be where we are right now. Some of us learned how to cook from our mothers. Some of us learned how to take care of our family from our mothers. Some of us learned how to stay steadfast in the midst of trials because of our mothers. And even Paul in 2 Timothy, Paul told Timothy and reminded him how you came to faith. 2 Timothy 1:5, he says, I am reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you also. He said, young Timothy, don't forget what's in you. What God put in your mama put in you. And he said, when you get to the point of forgetting where you come from, he said, you need to stir up the gift. And can I tell you, if your mama put anything in you, sometimes we get off the path, but there is a time when we need to stir it up and come on back to where mama has taught us where we need to be. I thank God for the prodigal son. I don't know where mama was, but I'm sure mama poured into him. That when the text said he came to himself, I know mama had a part to play. A mother can teach their children a multitude of life lessons. But the most important life lesson that a mother can teach is the need to know Jesus Christ for themselves. Mamas can teach a whole lot of stuff, but the most important lesson is that your child know who Jesus is. Now, when they know him, they got to make their own steps. But we got to make the introduction. And the Proverbs 31 mother tells us strength and dignity are her clothing. And she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. And the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Is there any mamas in here that says, I birthed my children, but in that birth there's some DNA that have come from me that have passed on to them? And can I tell you, we ought to have some mamas in here that don't mind showing your children. I know how to praise because mama prayed. I know how to pray because mama prayed. I know how to give because mama showed me how to give. Is there anybody in here that will testify, mama showed me some stuff? And we salute her for being a biological mother. Well, I've told you, public action doesn't always get public acknowledgement. I told you that there is a salute to biological mothers. But then thirdly, in the text, I see there's a salute to spiritual mothers. There's a salute to spiritual mothers. Paul salutes Rufus's mother because evidently she's been like a surrogate mother to him. And this requires some great understanding and tact. but Paul sensed her loving purpose. Can I tell you, you don't know who God has placed in your path. That even though you're not the biological mama, but you can provide a spiritual impact into the lives of children and those who are around you, that they will look at you as a mother figure in their life. She was an integral part to his ministry and his life. And it's important to note that Paul gives her a salutation and recognition, and she was not his biological mother. And can I tell you, it doesn't matter if you stepmama, godmama, grandmama, or like mama, you can make an impact into somebody's life. And obviously she served an important part of his life, because he mentions her in this text and says she has been a mother to me also. There are many women who may not be biological mothers, but serves as a spiritual or like a mother in our lives. Can I tell you, being a mother is an attitude, not a biological relation. Over the years, I, like Paul, have been blessed with several good and spiritual mothers who took particular interest in my welfare. I got some aunties who are like mothers. I got some other folk teachers who are like mothers. I got some folk in the church who are like mothers, who took a particular interest in my welfare and good living. And can I tell you, you ought to express gratitude for those who have helped you along life's way. Hebrews 6:10 says, for God is not unrighteous to forget your work and the love which you show toward his name, in that you ministered unto the saints. And so I come by to tell you that the same way Paul has saluted Rufus's mother and said she is like a mother to me also, that we ought to salute all mothers who are in this world, regardless of what they have played in your life. And I'm on my way to my seat when I tell you there's a number of examples of women in the Bible who served as biological mothers and spiritual mothers. Mother Eunice and grandmother Lois taught Timothy the scriptures from childhood. Jochebed received her son Moses back from the river, taught him about God, and no matter how hard those in the palace tried, they could not remove her training. Hannah nursed her son Samuel and made clothes for him and presented him to the Lord in the temple as she has vowed to do. Now Proverbs 31 tells us that King Lemuel's mother warned him of the dangers of embracing wayward women, of abusing wine, and of being just and fair in all of his doings. The noble wife of Proverbs 31 was a husband's trusted companion, a virtuous woman, a skillful mother, and a productive keeper of their home. Peter's mother-in-law was hospitable to the Lord and to his disciples. Ruth gleaned in wheat and barley fields. She beat out the grain and provided the needs of Naomi. Deborah was a notably wise woman who rendered counsel to many in Israel, including Barak. Abigail bestowed godly advice unto King David. And Mary, I said Mary was the vessel that the Savior came into this world. I thank God for mothers. I thank God for biological and spiritual mothers. I thank God for mothers who have poured into me. Do I have a few folk in the room right now? Your testimony is I've had a mama who was in my life, and I thank God for my mama. And here it is, when God has blessed you with a loving mother, you ought to thank him every day. There's a story that when in California gold fever broke out, there was a man who went there looking for prosperity. He left his wife and his son behind and said, when the time comes and I make a little money, I'm gonna send back for them. And it took a little while, but he became successful, and he told them, it's time for y'all to join me in San Francisco. The wife got happy, packed up their stuff, and her and her boy went to New York and got on a Pacific cruise liner headed for San Francisco. But as the boat pulled off, a little while later, you started hearing the cries of fire, fire. The boat was on fire, and the captain knew that there was a room full of explosive powder, and if the fire made it unto that room, that the whole boat was going to blow up. And so they got lifeboats, but there was only a few lifeboats and more people than the room. And the last boat got ready to leave the big boat, and they said, that's it, we can't take no more. And the wife said, please let me and my boy get on that boat. And they said, no, we don't have room for no more. But she earnestly pleaded and kept begging, and finally they said, we got room for one more. And so she handed her child over the boat, and she told and gave him a kiss and hugged him and said, child, if you live to see your father, tell him I died in your place. And what that mother did for her son on that boat is what Jesus did for you and I on Calvary's cross. He died for you and for me. He died so that we can experience a life with our mothers. He died so that we can wake up another Mother's Day 2018. He died so that you and I can love on our mothers. But I thank God that that's not the end of the story. They put them in a borrowed tomb, but early, I said early Sunday morning, he got up with all power in his hand. And when I know that when he was dying on that cross, he said, son, behold your mother, and mother, behold your son. Even down on the cross, he said, I got to take care of my mama. Is there anybody in the room right now that know if Jesus can take care of his mama, then surely we can take care of our mothers. Do I have a few folk in the room right now? Do I have a few folk that didn't go to sleep on me, that know that you got something from mama? I got from my mama that all things will work together for good to them that love the Lord and are called according according to his purpose. I got from mama that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in me shall not perish but have everlasting life. I got from mama that no thing shall separate me from the love of Christ. I got from mama, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. I got from mama, bless the Lord, oh my soul, and all of these things I got from mama. The wicked shall perish, but those who are faithful shall trust in the Lord. I got from mama that can't nobody do me like Jesus. Can't nobody do me like the Lord. I got from mama amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I got from mama, precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I got from mama, ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? Ain't it all right? I got from mama. Ain't it, ain't it, ain't it, ain't it, ain't it, ain't it, ain't it all right? If your mama has ever done anything for you, shout yeah, shout yeah, shout yeah, shout yeah, shout yeah, shout yeah. Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? Won't he do it? Won't he do it? Won't he bless you with a godly mama? I thank God for my mama. If it had not been for my mama, I don't know where I would be. But to God be the glory for the things he has done. Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? Ain't it 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 all
Thank God for my mother. One thing that my mother instilled in me a long time ago, dragging me to Sunday school and Bible study, she instilled in me that I can take you to church, but you have to get to know Jesus for yourself. Like myself, many of us was drugged to church. But you got to get to know Jesus for yourself. And if you're here this morning and you're out of the ark of safety and you don't know who Jesus Christ is, we want to extend to you the privilege and the opportunity to come.